Hi, this is Marc Cook with KITPLANES. I'm here with Mark Schaible from Sonex. We're going to take this opportunity of this distancing, as it were, the enforced distancing. And Mark, thanks for taking the time. I'd kind of like to get us started with, tell us how you guys are dealing with the COVID-19. How has this impacted your business so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting to say the least. Luckily, we are in a position where we can keep operating because some of the work we have in our unmanned aircraft sector allows us to do that despite the state of Wisconsin stay-at-home order. But we're of course still being cautious and taking precautions. Everybody who can work from home is working here in the office by myself to keep the shop staff going and supervised, and also to make sure all the IT equipment here still works properly so that people working from home can reliably connect to everything here that they need. We do have the shop in operation, continuing on the quick build assemblies for customers and the unmanned vehicles that we are building. And our warehouse person is in the warehouse alone, keeping shipments going out the door. So yeah, we're taking precautions, including having the shop staff workstations spread apart as far as possible within the space available, having them sanitize any common tools before they put them away. You know, obviously we're sanitizing surfaces and doorknobs and you name it.
So that's obviously a lot of what a lot of companies are having to do. How would you say this has impacted, sort of your workflow? Is this at a minor impact, major impact, or is it somewhere in between?
It's, I wouldn't call it a major impact, although sometimes it feels that way. Really, at the end of the day, it's about being a little bit creative and adjusting. We've been using this same platform here to video conference between our engineering team mostly, and the screen sharing has been very valuable, especially the annotate feature. So we can have a SolidWorks model up on the screen, and another person on the call can draw on that screen like John Madden, and that works out pretty good. John Monette's kind of a hands-on guy, so it's taken him a little bit of adjusting to not be able to just reach over and grab your mouse. But we're all adjusting, and it's going well. One of the things with remote work and video conferencing is that some of that stuff tends to take longer. We're having to be disciplined about keeping calls to a reasonable amount of time because you invariably end up talking about the news and everything, and some of the video calls end up going kind of long. So we're trying to keep a little discipline in that just to keep us efficient.
Absolutely. Well, that's good to hear. So let's shift gears just a little bit. I know you guys have gotten a lot of press from us and other people, and certainly a lot of notoriety on the SubSonex. You've introduced, obviously, that you're working on a two-seater version of that. I'm curious to know kind of where you are in that project and how that's going.
Yeah, it's going well. We are definitely progressing beyond our past published update, but it's not a lot of visual progress at this point. So there's not a lot to show beyond what we last put on our website. A lot of little detail stuff that we're ironing out. I will say that it is probably progressing a little slower than we would like because of all the other work that we have to do. We're extremely busy right now, which we're very fortunate to be busy. But it's on our plate with everything else, and so we have to prioritize our time. I always call it, actually I got this from Jim Kepnick at EAA when I used to work with him. I call it spinning plates. You got to keep giving one a tap over here, over there, give everything a tap so nothing just stops and falls to the ground. And that's what it's like working projects here. We always have so much going on at one time, and now especially there's a ton of stuff going on, which is great. So we are progressing. A lot of internal structural details that are just being not so much engineered, but just the finishing details, exactly how they interface with one another, where fasteners are going. We're modeling all of that um, in SolidWorks so that we can start committing it to metal.
Well, it's good to hear that there's progress coming. I know these, any airplane project, whether you're building or designing, is, it looks like you've made huge progress one day, and then you'll go weeks and you'll actually do a lot of work, and it won't look like you've done anything. So
Exactly.
From the builder side, I appreciate the challenge you guys are up against. So,
Yeah.
now you mentioned that you're pretty busy. Now I know that you guys have the government contract for unmanned vehicles. So tell me a little bit about that. I'm not sure how many of our readers are up to speed on that program.
Yeah. So about, I would say 5 years ago, probably closer to 6 years ago now, we announced that we started working with a company called Navmar Applied Sciences Corporation. And they are a big company involved with government work. Half of their business is anti-submarine warfare technology, a lot of things related to the P3 and P8 programs. And the other half is unmanned aerial systems. So their primary UAS that they're probably most well known for is called the Tiger Shark. And that vehicle has had a lot of time deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, most notably flying payloads that detect IEDs, roadside bombs. They also operated aerostats in Iraq, including some situations where their own deployed staff were even under fire. So a very distinguished history for them in terms of service to the armed forces. They approached us about 6 years ago now, to take a look at taking our Xenos motor glider and adapting it for unmanned use. So we delivered one prototype to them. It was not a not too extensively modified Xenos. We basically put it on tri-gear, modified it to basically put a big fuel cell where the people would normally sit right on the CG. It was fitted with two huge alternators, so the cowling had some beauty bumps in front under the nose, and the project has grown from there. The vehicle has gotten far more optimized for the purpose. So as you may have seen, we had first flight of the technology demonstrator, that first one that we delivered. It took an extraordinary long time for NASC to get it to first flight. One, because it was a development project that they entered into with us on speculation, knowing it would be a great product, but they didn't have any paying customers for it yet. So they had to keep pulling team members off of finishing that airframe after we delivered it to them to go do work that pays the bills. And it's just a very complex thing. It's not like flying an RC airplane. There's all kinds of very advanced telemetry and systems involved, to autopilot systems, you name it, to get a vehicle like this, especially something with a 39-foot wingspan, off the ground safely, unmanned, and back down safely. So we're doing that on the Teros is what we call it, basically the Xenos motor glider platform, and now we're beginning to do work related to our jet aircraft. And again, it's a sensitive but not classified project, so I can't say much about it. But that is currently one of the big pushes right now, what we're tasked with. So it's extremely interesting work. We've always been big on R&D and engineering. That's what I think more than anything gets our blood pumping here as an organization. So things are extremely good right now for the company. Everybody's very engaged, very creative and productive. And a diversification like this obviously is a huge boost to our bottom line as a company, which we feel is critically important. As close as we are to the home building industry, and our hearts and spirit are there, it is a recreational industry that depends on disposable cash for our customers. Um, it's a shrinking pilot population, as we've been talking about for decades, whereas this is really, an exploding growth area in aviation in the unmanned market.
I know a lot of companies are having to deal with the immediate issues, but you still have to plan ahead. You still have to kind of look forward through the rest of the year and obviously beyond that. What does this look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's very difficult to see what the year is going to look like. We know that the year will be good financially, which of course is extremely important to the continuation of our operations through this crisis. And we're very fortunate for that because of our diversification. I will also say that sales are up from our traditional market. People are home, they got a lot of time on their hands to work on their projects or to surf our website. Web traffic is up too, and we've got some new kit orders as well, and some inquiries from people considering placing an order. And so I would imagine that's probably true industry-wide. We have started a little conversation in our Aircraft Kit Industry Association group in the last day or so, and just trying to poll everybody's experience and see if anybody needs support elsewhere in the industry or just ideas on how everyone's coping. So that's good. I think, obviously it's unclear and maybe not such an optimistic picture whether or not we'll have AirVenture this year. Actually, John Monette and I were just talking about that this morning. Maybe if we have the all clear, but the event is still canceled just because of the enormous amount of organization it takes, maybe we'll host a fly-in here just for Sonex customers or something. Or maybe I'll just really enjoy taking a week off as a novelty during when AirVenture would normally be held. For the first time in my life, probably having vacation that week of the year. I don't know, we'll see. But it's really interesting. Our customers who started doing these virtual fly-ins, video conferencing, which you guys have covered, and the spirit is still there in everyone, and they all want to get out flying. They want to get building, keep building, and we're just going to carry on and see it through. A close parallel that we could make to the situation is the way things were after 9/11. 9/11 hit, and we obviously were all in a huge amount of uncertainty, and all flying was shut down. And very shortly thereafter, we had probably the biggest, granted our company was much younger and smaller at the time, but we almost immediately after 9/11 had a huge surge in sales. And people were saying things like, I've got to do this before I'm not allowed to anymore. Or the future is uncertain, and even at that time, financial uncertainty as well immediately afterwards, and people wanted to make sure that they did this thing that they've always wanted to do. And I think that may be playing into the attitudes in the customer base now as well.
Yeah, that may well be the case, but I get the sense that I think from the people I talk to, similar to what your group is saying, that the sales are actually up a little bit. There seems to be no sort of lacking of enthusiasm for it. There are some people who are being a little bit cautious about it, but I think the perception is this is a fairly short-term situation. Could be longer-term economically, but as far as the physical manifestations, could be a little shorter term. But that's my crystal ball is not that great either. So, hey, Mark, I'm going to wrap it up here. Listen, thanks very much for spending some time with us. I know our readers appreciate hearing it right from the source. And let's keep our fingers crossed that we'll be able to come see you with a whole bunch of other people at Oshkosh. If not, we'll come and visit during your fly-in.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.